The situation has not improved. I am dressed as an astronaut and expect the day to go terribly. The decoration looked pitiful when I set them up the night prior. The harsh morning light does them no favors. No magical transformation has taken place. The abandoned factory still looks like an abandoned factory. To enter the grounds of Children's Sci-Fi Saturday, one has to walk through a decontamination tunnel. I had hoped that the mysterious passage would make the factory seem more futuristic, but all it manages to do is bring back memories of the early pandemic. The overpowering stench of disinfectant doesn't do the atmosphere any favors either. In the first chamber of the event sits a grouping of chairs and a mostly clean canvas screen that documentaries about space travel are being projected on. I've taken great care in organizing the YouTube playlist to be as educational as possible, but the children are utterly disinterested. They're not filled with wonder and joy. They're confused. Some throw tantrums, some openly weep. The parents that arrived early are trying to put on a positive front, but I know it won't last. When Heavyset Mother starts to loudly inquire about who she has to speak to for a refund and an explanation, I dug into another of the decontamination tunnels and moved deeper into a poorly constructed spaceship. The second chamber of the event holds the futuristic kitchen. The table is pitiful. In between a bunch of sci-fi props I've salvaged from a defunct movie studio sit two bowls with the most futuristic food I could afford. Jelly beans and saltine crackers. Though the food and decor of the chamber are miserable, the kitchen is staffed by my one stroke of good luck, Catherine. She might be underage and I might be breaking various laws by having her interact with the children, but what she lacks in qualifications, she makes up for with sheer excitement. She even brought her own costume. Although obviously homemade, she looks like she crawled straight out of the Jetsons and has the energy of a cartoon character to prove it. When she sees me, she waves and smiles and tells me everything is going great. After the initial burst of pep, however, Catherine asks if I'm going to bring more food. The kids are much hungrier than anticipated and she's getting a bit peckish herself. It's not even an hour in and half the jelly beans are gone. I tell her everything is going to be arranged, even though I know it won't be. She nods and hops over to serve two 10-year-olds some crackers. They look miserable. I can't hear her past the helmet, but she says something to the kids, and suddenly they're all smiles. The woman who was requesting the refund emerges from the disinfection tunnel. She yells out into the ether about robbery and fraud and demands to be shown who's in charge. I know I'll have to face her eventually, but I can't bear to do so yet. I dug into the passageway leading to the final chamber of the event. The loading bay is lit by discount screens I ordered online. On each of the screens stands a cartoon alien. Their voices are clearly artificial and they speak over each other, but with a bit of imagination, they almost seem sentient. Animated avatars powered by artificial intelligence. It's all Greek to me, but a stranger online put them together for a reasonable price. The avatars are stilted, even a bit frightening, but the children seem genuinely excited to be talking to them. The man I hired to look after this chamber of the event is considerably less enthused. He emerges from the shadows, his face painted green and holding little joy. The man looks rough, dangerous even, but he's the only one who responded to my online ad. The moment he sees me, he starts asking would I filled out the paperwork he asked for. I don't know what he's talking about, but it doesn't look amicable to questions. I tell him it's almost filled out, hoping that he'll eventually forget. Another thing, he says, picking at his paint-covered beard in frustration. One of the aliens is busted. He doesn't point at the screen. Instead, he flicks whatever detritus he gathered from his jaw in the general direction of the malfunction. The alien on the screen is, indeed, busted. The creature's eyes are wide open in an expression of a grand mal seizure, and his speech consists solely of strained vowels. The child stares up at the creature with terrified wonder. He listens, trying to decipher the extraterrestrial's message, but when he notices we're watching him, he turns to us. "Why is he talking like that?" the boy asks. "Alien language," I say, feeling the nervous heat rise in my spacesuit. "Try talking to a different alien." The child doesn't question this. He simply shrugs and moves on to a screen with a healthy-looking alien. I tell the man with the green face that he should dissuade the kids from talking to the broken screen, and he, in turn, starts asking about the paperwork again. Apparently, the state needs evidence that he was hired for the job. I vaguely recall a stack of blank documents sitting in the factory office and tell him, again, that they're almost filled out. When he, rather aggressively, demands that I give him the papers immediately, I excuse myself. I am, after all, meant to be keeping watch over the space documentaries. When I emerge out of the disinfection tunnel into the first chamber of the event, I am met with two unpleasant surprises. The playlist of space documentaries I have set up has been remixed by the YouTube algorithm to include flat Earth videos. Before I manage to rectify the program, I'm confronted by a second, shriller surprise. She nearly tears my spacesuit when she grabs me. The woman who was so loudly proclaiming her appetite for a refund has singled me out. Dangling her weeping 5-year-old daughter like a prop, she demands to speak to someone who could give her back her hard-earned money. The visor of my space helmet obscures my face, but the fear in my voice comes through loud and clear. I tell the woman that if she wants to get a refund, she should contact the organizer of the event. When she demands a phone number, I panic and give her the right one. She calls immediately. Even past the confines of my astronaut costume, she can hear my phone ring. The moment she identifies me as the organizer of Children's Sci-Fi Saturday, her already loud voice reaches a volume that makes all the children weep with renewed fervor. Her points and jabs catch the attention of other parents. They aren't happy either. The mob shifts from displeasure to absolute rage in a matter of seconds. At first, I make an attempt to negotiate, yet the louder the crowd gets, the more they start to push and shove. I have a helmet on, but the fear of a broken jaw is palpable. As the crowd gets rowdier and more aggressive, I push my way past a bunch of styrofoam decorations and hide in a factory's office space. I'd hoped that my retreat would dissuade the crowd, but it doesn't. Not even shuttering the windows calms them. They keep knocking on the door. They're all demanding to speak to me. With each knock, their demands grow louder and angrier. When I set up the decorations the night prior, the thought occurred to me that at some point of Children's Sci-Fi Saturday, the police might be called. I just never thought that I would be the one to call them. Just as I fear someone might break the window, the officers arrive. They part the mob of parents and deliver their own knock and request. I let them in and immediately shut the door. I recognize them the moment they enter. It isn't until I take off my helmet that they recognize me. It's the same two patrolmen who showed up the night me and Karel had met the unknown. They laugh at the sight of me. When I explain my predicament, they laugh some more. Halfway through my story, someone starts banging on the door demanding to know what is happening. The younger cop finds this to be very funny, but the other one, the same one who so sternly warned me about being taken to a psychiatric institution on that fateful night, takes great offense to the interruption. He bursts out the door and roars at the crowd to calm down and not interrupt police procedure. Refunds are civil matters. If they want one, they should call a lawyer. Then, with a satisfied smile, the policeman returns to the office. He bids me to continue my story. The police find Karel bailing on the event and the ensuing chaos to be very funny. But when I tell them that I am scared of the mob outside, they turn thoughtful. The crowd is thinning, but they both admit that I am not exactly safe. Finally, the cop who couldn't stop laughing during my story asks me if anyone's seen me without the spacesuit. If people didn't know I organized the event, they might not try to punch me in the face. When I tell the officer that none of the parents outside actually know what I look like, he slaps his knee in victory. He declares the problem solved. I should just take off the spacesuit and keep an eye on the event as a civilian. My clothes are drenched in sweat from the spacesuit and the stress, but aside from the wet splotches around my neck and armpits, I look like a regular middle-aged man. Being a lone, sweaty adult at a children's day makes me uncomfortable, but I prefer it to the alternative. The stern policeman stands outside the door and keeps watch. When the coast is clear, he raps his knuckles on the door. I emerge from behind the styrofoam decorations not as the organizer of Children's Sci-Fi Saturday, but as another unhappy adult. I thank the patrolmen for their help, but in response they just shake their heads and smile. "Oh, we're staying here, just to keep an eye on things," the one that likes to laugh says. "There's a good chance someone will assault you," the stern one says. I heed their warnings and proceed with caution. I do my best to keep a low profile. In the first chamber of the event, a handful of children are watching the projector with interest. It's not a space documentary, or even a flat Earth video. It's a scream-filled treatise on Bill Gates' secret microchip factory on the moon. The children look disappointed when I switch the video over to a soft-spoken documentary about space travel, but eventually the screen catches their attention with rocket ships. Seeing me at the laptop, a parent comes up to me. He asks me if I know who's in charge of the event. I shrug and say I got the gig from an online listing. The father throws up his hands in frustration, but he does not strike me. He just mumbles, "Unbelievable," grabs his son, and leaves the premises. I find some confidence in my anonymity. That confidence disappears the moment I enter the second chamber. Weeping children roam around like butterflies in a summer meadow. All the bowls in the futuristic kitchen are empty. Even though Catherine is still smiling, there's lines of mascara running down her face. Most furious of all, and terribly frightening under the bright light of the fluorescents, is the green-painted man. "I'm not going back there, man," he yells, grabbing me by my shirt. There's legitimate fear in the man's eyes, but it quickly turns to anger. "Whatever the hell that thing is, it's not right. If I wasn't on parole, I would have gotten out of here already. Just get me my work papers, goddammit!" The other parents watch us with suspicion. They start to piece together why I could be getting yelled at by the staff. Before the mob can assemble again, I free myself of the green man's grasp and duck into the third chamber of the factory. He screams about how he's not going back to jail because of me, but the green-painted man doesn't make chase. I walk through the disinfection chamber alone. I emerge into a loading dock of flickering screens. Some are completely dead, some are blue with Windows errors, and some are filled with jittering alien avatars. All of them howl with strange monosyllabic ululations of a broken intelligence. Yet all the alien avatars malfunctioning is not what strikes true horror into my heart. What truly frightens me is the mirror at the far end of the loading dock. Even in the poor light, I can see my reflection. I'm once again made into a terrible ogre of nightmare. Behind me, as before, something gets closer and closer. When I look over my shoulder, the screens flicker with strain. The thing emerges on all fours. It moves its limbs with caution, yet its neck is eagerly extended. Even past the ululations of the broken aliens, I can hear it hiss. From across the loading dock, I witness the unknown once more. Drunk on fear, my mind produces a terrible theory. On that fateful night, the unknown fled before the police entered the loading dock. It fled. With my mind diminished, I formed the idea that the creature is easily startled. As if I was dealing with a deer in my backyard, I make myself large and dash towards it. Yet the thing I am trying to fluster is not a deer. It is horror personified. The closer I move towards the abomination, the starker that reality becomes. My hands fall to my sides and my fingers dig into my palms. My footsteps slow until my feet refuse to move. I stand before the unknown, just as Carol did, paralyzed with fear. The thing slowly raises itself to its hind limbs and braces against my shoulders. Though its appendages are shaped like arms, the fingers are not. They are terrible hooked claws that dig deep into the fabric of my shirt. The thing lifts itself and wraps another set of claws around my knees. The creature is considerably light, yet its weight on my mind is unbearable. From behind its metal mask, the thing whispers to me. Its rasping voice is that of many mouths. I comprehend each and every inhuman word that is forced into my ear. The message of the unknown bounces through me, jagged and painful, and my eyes fill with tears. The thing speaks, and I comprehend. Yet when it lets go of me, all the truths dissipate from my mind. Like the fading memory of a bad dream, I forget the specifics of what the thing whispered. The terrible message leaves my mind, but the fear and dread do not. The unknown does not flee after it's done with me. It crawls its way back to the horrible mirror and watches me. Its masked face cocks to the side in curiosity. I do not entertain the creature's gaze long. The moment my limbs are remotely under my control, I turn and I run. As I escape the horrid monstrosity, I try to call to the outside world for help, but my voice is a hoarse whisper. When I smash through the disinfection tunnel, my feet can no longer hold me. Crawling, like a weeping infant, I make my way into the kitchen of the future. The police are in a heated debate with the man with the painted face, but I interrupted with my wails. Tugging at their pant leg, I beg them to enter the third chamber. I demand they witness the horrid monster and destroy it. The police seem eager to investigate, but my entrance makes a scene. Quickly, I am identified as the organizer of Children's Sci-Fi Saturday. The parents mob me and order I explain myself. They shout and demand refunds and call me a thief. In their eyes, I can see a thirst for blood. I try to stand up on my own, but instead I am lifted off my feet by an angry, balding man. Based off my terror-stricken eyes and sweaty form, he announces that I am on drugs. With each stuttered denial, his accusations grow more certain. I try to explain myself and apologize, yet my words just enrage the crowd further. I am pulled from side to side, nearly being torn asunder. Then finally, with a blunt force to the back of my head, I am expelled from the realm of the conscious. I wake in the back of a police cruiser. The officers sit in front, drinking coffee and eating sandwiches. The event is cancelled, they inform me. The unhappy parents had gathered into a mob and became a public safety hazard. Everyone was dispersed and I was safe. But they weren't able to figure out who had knocked me out. "You'll just have to live with the mystery," the stern one says. "At least you survived." "Definitely getting sued though," the one with the good humor chuckles. As they drive me home, I go through the missed calls on my cell phone. I think of calling back Catherine, perhaps calming down the green-painted felon, but my mind quickly shifts to other things. I notice something is off when I see myself in a dashboard mirror. The mass of bruised flesh on the right side of my head makes for an uncomfortable sight, but there's something else that's wrong in the reflection. It isn't until I get a proper look at myself in my bathroom mirror that I realize what had started to unsettle me in the back of the cruiser. Behind me, ever so gently, I see movement. When I turn around, I'm alone. Yet in my reflection, there is something unsettling. Something I can't quite focus my eyes on is moving behind me. It's moving, and with every passing second, it gets closer. I don't call any of the people I hired for Children's Sci-Fi Saturday. I don't call any of the parents or answer any of the furious emails. There's only one person I have interest in talking to. The only other person who has heard the terrible whispers of the unknown. I call Karel. I call him over and over and over again. I call Karel, and he does not pick up. Sup ghouls, it's me, Mike, the guy who writes these stories. Hope y'all enjoyed this chapter of the Unknown Saga. There's 2 more stories left in the batch, and as per usual, you can snag early access to them at patreon.com/MikeJLanger. Speaking of Patreon, when the new United People's Institute of Science series is ready to launch, I'll be making some adjustments to the way the Patreon is run. If there's anything in particular you'd like to see on it, give me a shout in the comments. Life is, as usual, pretty hectic, so I haven't been able to give this too much thought, but I'm thinking of adding an additional tier for providing feedback for short stories and other bits of creative writing. Used to do this back in uni for academic papers as a side hustle, and spent a lot of my early PenMonkey days doing LBL feedback in the Lit Reactor community, which, hasn't existed for almost half a decade. Time flies when you're 30. Anywho, if there's anything else you'd like to see on the Patreon, let me know. Thank you for your support, patience, and an extra special thanks to patrons which help keep the lights on, such as Bob Kondirk, Dante Kincaid, Joyce, Matt, Mr. Creepypasta, Paul, Paul Evans, and Shion. See y'all next week. Hope everyone is safe, sane, and healthy out there.